like masturbation. Hi. I hope. Wow. Okay, that one's. I hope all is well, y'all. In all of the craziness of our days, the fact that it is late April right now, when I feel like January just came, ah, oh, no one taught me how to keep better track of the days. Time just be like vroom vroom. Okay. Anyway, we have a few chapters today, just 3 chapters of King, First Kings. We'll do Kings 11 through 13, and then go into Psalms 97, and from there we can call it wrap. Okay? So let's just hop into it. Let's get some reading done, and let's see if the Spirit helps us understand what we are taking in. Because honestly, there's no point in me reading all of this if it's not really making an impact on thought process, the way you think about it, the way you understand God's gonna show up, So that goes. I hope that even in all of my overwhelm, I pray that even in all of my overwhelm, I have enough mental capacity, enough spiritual space, enough physical mojo to allow the words of this text to become more than just a story of the past, but to become a living, breathing, adaptive word that can help me face my future. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. Okay, at the top, Solomon's many wives. Now King Solomon loved many foreign women. Besides Pharaoh's daughter, he married women from Moab, Ammon, Edom, Sidon, and from the Hittites. The Lord had clearly instructed the people of Israel, "You must not marry them because they will turn your hearts to their gods." Yet Solomon insisted on loving them anyway. Yeah, he clearly told them this. You must not do that because they're going to turn your heart to other gods. It's like, how do you expect to prosper? Okay, but he insisted on loving them anyway. He had... How? This man had 700 wives of royal birth and 300 concubines. And in fact, they did turn his heart away from the Lord. In Solomon's old age, they turned his heart to worship other gods instead of being completely faithful to the Lord his God, as his father David had been. Solomon worshipped Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Shedanites, and Molech, the detestable god of the Ammonites. In this way, Solomon did what was evil in the Lord's sight. He refused to follow the Lord completely, as his father David had done. On the Mount of Olives east of Jerusalem, he even built a pagan shrine for Chemosh, the detestable god of Moab, and another for Molech, the detestable god of the Ammonites. Solomon built such shrines for all his foreign wives to use for burning incense and sacrificing to their gods. The Lord was very angry with Solomon, for his heart had turned away from the Lord, the God of Israel, who had appeared to him twice. He had warned Solomon specifically about worshiping other gods, but Solomon did not listen to the Lord's command. So now the Lord said to him, "Since you have not kept my covenant and have disobeyed my decrees, I will surely tear the kingdom away from you and give it to one of your servants. But for the sake of your father David. I will not do this while you are still alive. I will take the kingdom away from your son. And even so, I will take away the entire kingdom. I will let him be king of one tribe for the sake of my servant David and for the sake of Jerusalem, my chosen city. How do you have 700 wives? 700 royal wives, which means that these are people who grew up in luxury, live in luxury, know luxury, and demand luxury for their lives. 700. And that's not counting the additional 300 concubines that you have. And while the concubines don't have the rights of a wife, they're just the legitimate other woman. How do you have 700 wives? Because I'm not naive, man. Like, how do you handle 1,000 women? I don't understand. I'm very confused. 700. How do you... Okay. Alright, I'm just gonna have to assume. It's not that I really need to dive into this royal court in detail, but like, clearly there's some who weren't visited at all. Like, they just can't. And the fact that these other royal kings or whatever were allowing their daughters to be married off to a man who already has so many, just to go be another lost gem in his jewel cases. 1,000 women, 700 which are wives, and you know jealousy was rampant. Oh my god, I can't. Okay, alright. So, Solomon's adversaries. The Lord raised up Hadad, the Edomite, a member of Edom's royal family, to be Solomon's adversary. Years before, David had defeated Edom. Joab, his army commander, had stayed to bury some of the Israelite soldiers who had died in battle. While there, they killed every male in Edom. Joab and the army of Israel had stayed there for 6 months, killing them. But Hadad and a few of his father's royal officials escaped and headed for Egypt. Hadad was just a boy at the time. They set out of Midian and went to Paran, where others joined them. Then they traveled to Egypt and went to Pharaoh, who gave them a home, food, and some land. Pharaoh grew very fond of Hadad, and he gave him his wife's sister in marriage. His sister, the queen of Tephens, she bore him a son named Genubath. Tephens raised him in Pharaoh's place, in Pharaoh's palace among Pharaoh's own sons. When the news reached Hadad in Egypt that David and his commander Joab were both dead, he said to Pharaoh, "Let me return to my own country." "Why?" Pharaoh asked him. "What do you lack here that makes you want to go home?" "Nothing," he replied. "But even so, please let me return home." God also raised up Rezon, son of Eliadad, as Solomon's adversary. Rezon had fled from his master, King Hadazar of Zobah, and had become the leader of a gang of rebels. After David conquered Hadazar, Rezon and his men fled to Damascus, where he became king. Rezan was Israel's bitter adversary for the rest of Solomon's reign, and he made trouble just as Hadad did. Rezan hated Israel immensely and continued to reign in Aram. You see this? God raised up his adversaries because Israel knew peace, and they would have continued to know peace had Solomon committed himself fully to the commands, regulations, and decrees that God asked of him. It's not like God's not like, oh, I don't want you to have these beautiful foreign wives because they're just too beautiful for you to handle, or whatever. It's because they will pull your soul and spirit away from me and cause you irreparable harm. Like you don't understand that these women are leading you astray, and it's like the chess master who sees 12 moves ahead, and you're trying to explain that to someone who's just about to start the game, and they're like, what do you mean? Why can't I do this? And it's like, well, if you do that, this is what's going to happen. So he had to raise up his own adversary. God raised up his adversaries against Solomon because Solomon could no longer know peace now that he chosen to follow other gods. Jeroboam rebels against Solomon. Another rebel leader was Jeroboam, son of Nebat, one of Solomon's own officials. He came from the town of Zereda in Ephraim, and his mother was Zeruah, a widow. This was the story behind his rebellion. Solomon was rebuilding the supporting terraces and repairing the walls of the city of his father David. Jeroboam was a very capable young man, and when Solomon saw how industrious he was, he put him in charge of the labor force from the tribes of Ephraim and Manasseh, the descendants of Joseph. One day, as Jeroboam was leaving Jerusalem, the prophet Ahijah from Solomon met him along the way. Ahijah was wearing a new cloak. Though two of them were alone in a field, and Ahijah took hold of the new cloak he was wearing and tore it in 12 pieces. Then he said to Jeroboam, "Take 10 of these pieces, for this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. I am about to tear the kingdom from the hand of Solomon, and I will give 10 of the tribes to you, but I will leave him one tribe for the sake of my servant David and for the sake of Jerusalem, which I have chosen out of all the tribes of Israel." For Solomon has abandoned me and worshipped Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Shilonites, Shamash, the goddess of the god of Moab, and Molech, the god of the Ammonites. He has not followed my ways and done what is pleasing in my sight. He has not obeyed my decrees and regulations as David his father did. But I will not take the entire kingdom from Solomon at this time. For the sake of my servant David, the one whom I chose and who obeyed my commands and decrees, I will keep Solomon as leader for the rest of his life. But I will take the kingdom away from his son and give 10 of the tribes to you. His son will have one tribe, so that the descendants of David, my servant, continue to reign, shining like a lamp in Jerusalem, the city I have chosen to be the place for my name. And I will place you on the throne of Israel, and you will rule over all your heart's desire. And you will rule over that. And you will rule over all that your heart desires. Okay. And I will place you on the throne of Israel, and you will rule over all that your heart desires. If you listen to what I tell you and follow my ways and do whatever I consider to be right, and if you obey my decrees and commands, as my servant David did, then I will always be with you. I will establish an enduring destiny for you as I did for David, and I will give Israel to you. Because of Solomon's sin, I will punish the descendants of David, though not forever. Solomon tried to kill Jeroboam, but he fled to King Shishak of Egypt and stayed there until Solomon died. Summary of Solomon's reign. The rest of the events in Solomon's reign, including all his deeds and his wisdom, are recorded in the book of the Acts of Solomon. Solomon ruled in Jerusalem over all Israel for 40 years. When he died, he was buried in the city of David, named after his father. Then his son, Rehoboam, became the next king. The northern tribes revolt. Rehoboam went to Shechem, where all Israel had gathered to make him king. When Jeroboam, son of Nebat, heard of this, he returned from Egypt, for he had fled to Egypt to escape from King Solomon. The leaders of Israel summoned him, and Jeroboam and the whole assembly of Israel went to speak. I feel like there's something in the air. Okay. Where were we? 1 Kings 12, verse 3. The leaders of Israel summoned him. The leaders of Israel summoned him, and Jeroboam and the whole assembly of Israel went to speak with Rehoboam. Your father was a hard master, they said. Lighten the harsh labor demands and heavy taxes that your father imposed on us. Then we will be your loyal subjects. Rehoboam replied, Give me 3 days to think this over, then come back for my answer. So the people went away. Then King Rehoboam discussed the matter with the older men who had counseled his father Solomon. What is your advice? He asked. How should I answer these people? The older counselors replied, If you are willing to be a servant to these people today and give them a favorable answer, they will always be your loyal subjects. But Rehoboam rejected the advice of the older men and instead asked the opinion of the young men who had grown up with him and were now his advisors. What is your advice? He asked them. How should I answer these people who want me to lighten the burdens imposed by my father? The young men replied, This is what you should tell those complainers who want a lighter burden. My little finger is thicker than my father's waist. Yes, my father laid heavy burdens on you, but I'm going to make them even heavier. My father beat you with whips, but I will beat you with scorpions. 3 days later, Jeroboam and all the people returned to hear Rehoboam's decision, just as the king had ordered. But Rehoboam spoke harshly to the people, for he rejected the advice of the older counselors and followed the counsel of his young advisors. He told the people, "My father laid heavy burdens on you, but I'm going to make them even heavier. My father beat you with whips, but I will beat you with scorpions." So the king paid no attention to the people. This turn of events was the will of the Lord, for it fulfilled the Lord's message to Jeroboam, son of Nebat, through the prophet Ahijah from Shiloh. When all Israel realized that the king had refused to listen to them, they responded, "Down with the dynasty of David. We have no interest in the son of Jesse. Back to your homes, O Israel. Look out for your own house, O David." So the people of Israel returned home, but Rehoboam continued to rule over the Israelites who lived in the towns of Judah. King Rehoboam sent Adoniram, who was in charge of forced labor, to restore order, but the people of Israel stoned him to death. When this news reached King Rehoboam, he quickly jumped into his chariot and fled to Jerusalem. And to this day, the northern tribes of Israel have refused to be ruled by a descendant of David. When the people of Israel learned of Jeroboam's return from Egypt, they called an assembly and made him king over all Israel. So, only the tribe of Judah remained loyal to the family of David. God's like the epitome of fuck around and find out. Like, he keeps giving y'all warnings and warnings and telling y'all clear-cut instructions. Like, I feel like the instructions the Israelites got back in their day, or back, after the rescue mission from Egypt, were very clear and concise. Don't do this, follow this, look out for this, worry about that, follow these commands, and you will have everlasting peace. Here's some regulations and guidelines on how to rule over the people in peace. Here's how you handle dispute matters. Here's how you handle business. Like, very clear-cut written rules. A book of instruction given to the Israelites. Very clear. Solid. And yet you're like, "Oh, yeah, see, I know I'm after your heart, Lord. And I heard that you said that I shouldn't marry these women this way over here, the women of my enemies, because they'll make me..." And thank you for telling me exactly why I shouldn't marry those people. Why I shouldn't marry women from other tribes, from our enemies, from your enemies, Lord. I understand that, but I want to love them anyway. I feel like lust has been the biggest downfall of these Israelite leaders. Because it got Samson, it got David, definitely got Solomon. Shemaiah's prophecy. When Rehoboam arrived at Jerusalem, he mobilized the men of Judah and the tribe of Benjamin, 180,000 select troops, to fight against the men of Israel and to restore the kingdom to himself. But God said to Shemaiah, the man of God, "Say to Rehoboam, son of Solomon, king of Judah, and to all the people of Judah and Benjamin, and to the rest of the people, this is what the Lord says. Do not fight against your relatives, the Israelites. Go back home, for what has happened is my doing." So they obeyed the message of the Lord and went home as the Lord had commanded. Jeroboam mixed gold calves. Oh, he's still okay. All right. Jeroboam Jeroboam, that's the other guy, right? Had built up the city of Shemek on the hill country of Ephraim, and it became his capital. Later he went and built up the town of Peniel. Jeroboam thought to himself, unless I am careful, the kingdom will return to the dynasty of David. When these people go to Jerusalem to offer sacrifices at the temple of the Lord, they will again give their allegiance to King Rehoboam of Judah. They will kill me and make me their king and make him their king instead. So, on the advice of his counselors, the king made 2 gold calves. He said to the people, it is too much trouble for you to worship in Jerusalem. Look, Israel, these are the gods who brought you out of Egypt. He placed these calf idols in Bethel and in Dan at either end of his kingdom. But this became a great sin, for the people worshipped the idols, traveling as far north as Dan to worship the one there. Jeroboam also erected buildings at the pagan shrines and ordained priests from the common people, those who were not from the priestly tribe of Levi. And Jeroboam instituted a religious festival in Bethel, held on the 15th day of the 8th month, in imitation to the annual festival of shelters in Judah. There at Bethel he himself offered sacrifices to the calves he had made, and he appointed priests for the pagan shrines he had made. So on the 15th day of the 8th month, a day that he himself had designated, Jeroboam offered sacrifices to the altar at Bethel. He instituted a religious festival for Israel, and he went up to the altar to burn incense. A prophet denounces Jeroboam. At the Lord's command, a man of God from Judah went to Bethel, arriving there just as Jeroboam was approaching the altar to burn incense. Then at the Lord's command he shouted, "O altar, altar! This is what the Lord says. A child named Josiah will be born into the dynasty of David. On you he will sacrifice the priest from the pagan shrines who come here to burn incense, and human bones will be burned on you." That means that they're going to start doing child sacrifices or human sacrifices. A child named Josiah will be born into the dynasty of David. On you he will sacrifice the priest. They're talking to this altar. So on the altar he will sacrifice the priests from the pagan shrines who come here to burn incense, and human bones will be burned on you. That same day the man of God gave a sign to prove his message. He said, "The Lord has promised to give this sign. This altar will split apart, and its ashes will be poured out on the ground." When King Jeroboam heard the man of God speaking against the altar at Bethel, he pointed at him and shouted, "Seize that man!" But instantly the king's hand became paralyzed in that position, and he couldn't pull it back. At the same time, a wide crack appeared in the altar, and the ashes poured out, just as the man of God had predicted in his message from the Lord. The king cried out to the man of God, "Please ask the Lord your God to restore my hand again." So the man of God prayed to the Lord, and the king's hand was restored, and he could move it again. When the king said to the man of God, "Come to the palace with me and have something to eat, and I will give you a gift," the man of God said to the king, "Even if you give me half of everything you own, I would not go with you. I would not eat or drink anything in this place. For the Lord gave me this command: you must not eat or drink anything while you are there, and do not return to Judah by the same way you came." So he left Bethel and went home another way. As it happened, there was an old prophet living in Bethel, and his sons came home and told him what the man of God had done in Bethel that day. They also told their father what the man had said to the king. The old prophet asked them, "Which way did he go?" So they showed their father which road the man of God had taken. "Quick, saddle the donkey," the old man said. So they saddled the donkey for him, and he mounted it. Then he rode after the man of God and found him sitting under a great tree. The old prophet asked him, "Are you the man of God who came from Judah?" "Yes, I am," he replied. And then the man of God, "Come." Then he said to the man of God, "Come home with me and eat some food." "No, I cannot," he replied. "I am not allowed to eat or drink anything here in this place, for the Lord gave me this command. You must not eat or drink anything while you are there, and do not return to Judah by the same way you came." But the old prophet answered, "I am a prophet too, just as you are, and the angel gave me this command from the Lord. Bring him home with you so he can have something to eat and drink." But the old man was lying to him. This is why you gotta do the confirmation. But the old man was lying to him. So they went back together, and the man of God ate and drank at the prophet's home. Then while they were sitting at the table, a command from the Lord came to the old prophet. He cried out to the man of God from Judah, "This is what the Lord says. You have defied the word of the Lord and have disobeyed the command the Lord your God gave you. You came back to this place and ate and drank where he told you not to eat or drink. Because of this, your body will not be buried in the grave of your ancestors." After that, the man of God had finished eating and drinking. The old prophet saddled his donkey for him, and the man of God started off again. But as he was traveling along, a lion came out and killed him. His body lay there on the road with the donkey and the lion standing beside it. People who passed by saw the body lying in the road and the lion standing beside it, and they went and reported it in Bethel, where the old prophet lived. When the prophet heard the report, he said, "It is the man of God who disobeyed the Lord's command. The Lord has fulfilled his word by causing the lion to attack and kill him." And then the prophet said to his son, "Saddle a donkey for me." So they saddled a donkey, and he went out and found the body lying in the road. The donkey and lion were still standing there beside it, for the lion had not eaten the body nor attacked the donkey. So the prophet laid the body of the man of God on the donkey and took it back to the town to mourn over him and bury him. He laid the body in his own grave, crying out in grief, "Oh, my brother, you caused this!" What kind of twisted, you caused it. You caused his death. You caused him to walk astray. He was ready to go home, to return and not eat in Bethel. And you walked up to him and fed him lies, saying, "Oh, I am also a man of God. I am also a prophet just like you. And the angel of the Lord told me that I should come and feed you and make sure you eat here." And now you're going to pick up his body and bury him in your own grave and mourn over him, but you caused his death? Afterward, the prophet said to his son, "When I die, bury me in the grave where the man of God is buried. Lay my bones beside his bones." For the message the Lord told him to proclaim against the altar in Bethel and against the pagan shrines in the towns of Samaria will certainly come true. But even after this, Jeroboam did not turn from his evil ways. He continued to choose priests from the common people. He appointed anyone who wanted to become a priest for the pagan shrines. This became a great sin and resulted in the utter destruction of Jeroboam's dynasty from the face of the earth. If that's not a like message to be careful whose advice you listen to, be careful who you let sway you from your path, because this man knew, the man of God who spoke in Bethel, who told the king that I'm not gonna go eat any of your food, even if you gave me half of everything you own, is the same man who was dissuaded by some old man who rode up to him on a donkey. He had someone he had no idea, like, who you didn't verify him. There was no ID. You didn't verify him. And he's just telling you, oh, I'm a prophet, and the man of God, the angel of the Lord, also told me to come and make sure that you were fed. You didn't confirm that. You didn't double check with that. Well, if that is the case, okay, then the Lord, my God, will tell me to go with you. He's giving you direct messages. Why you not even double checking? Like, but hold on, let me. Oh, you got the own connect. You got your own connect to the Lord. So even if the angel of the Lord or an angel told this old man to come and bring you back to eat, would you not go check? Like, hold on, let me check with my boss. Hey, boss man. Excuse me, God. Let me just check with you real quick. Is what he's saying? Should I go back? Is that really part of your plan? Is that part of your will? If it's part of your will, please confirm it for me. Like, remember when, I think it was Abraham or someone was talking to, I think it was Abraham. He was talking to the Lord directly, and I was worried for him because he was like, excuse me, Lord, forgive your servant, but let me ask you one more question. What if there's only 45 men there who are gracious and Sodom and Gomorrah, who are righteous? Will you still destroy the city for them? And he kept pressing, and he was talking to God directly. He kept pressing. Like, why aren't you pressing to see, like, what's the deal? Why aren't you pressing? He was dissuaded so easily, so I want to mourn for this man, but he was dissuaded very easily. Like, very easily. Don't let any old person hop and dissuade you from what you are doing. And then he's over here mourning for him. Like, you didn't plot this whole thing against him. Why did you want him to eat at your house so badly? That's like, And in his gut, I'm sure he was sitting there in his gut going, damn, I knew I should have just took my ass home. Like, alright, we're in Psalms 97. The Lord is king. Let the earth rejoice. Let the furthest coastal lands be glad. Dark clouds surround him. Righteousness and justice are the foundation of his throne. Fire spreads ahead of him and burns up all his foes. His lightning flashes out across the world. The earth sees and trembles. The mountains melt like wax before the Lord of all the earth. The heavens proclaim his righteousness. Every nation sees his glory. Those who worship idols are disgraced. All who brag about their worthless gods, for every god must bow to him. Jerusalem has heard and rejoiced, and all the towns of Judah are glad because of your justice, O Lord. For you, O Lord, are supreme over all the earth. You are exalted far above all gods. You who love the Lord hate evil. He protects the lives of the godly people and rescue them from the power of the wicked. Light shines on the godly and joy on those whose hearts are right. May all who are godly rejoice in the Lord and praise his holy name. And that's all. Good reading. I will see y'all tomorrow. I'm not sure what time, but I'll see y'all tomorrow at some point in the day. Alright, peace. Bye bye.